Starting live. Now we are live. What's going on, you guys? This is your boy Dom coming live and direct from the Big D. You know how you stuttering. You know what it is. So check this out. Check this out. Let me take it off, man. Let me take it off. But check this out. We're doing a video today on botulism and on canning, specifically on how to avoid botulism. The reason that we thought this would be a very important video because with everything that's going on with the coronavirus right now, a lot of people have to find economical ways to provide meals for their family. What's up, fam? How you doing, sister? What's up, Chanel? But we have to find economical ways in order to save money. And my wife wants to demonstrate to you guys two different types of canning methods and how if you do not can the right way, the proper way, it could potentially lead to you getting sick and or dying. Yes, it is that serious, dying. I just found this out today because I came in the house and before we left Los Angeles, we had canned a whole bunch of food. Well, my wife had canned a whole bunch of food. And I came in, I said, why did you throw that away? She said, well, Dom, I found out that acidic foods could take the method that she's going to discuss today. But the other water-based foods, more water-soluble foods, had to be canned in a high-pressure water, what'd you call it?
Pressure canner. A
pressure canner. So that's important. So basically, she'll explain what happened today, how she knew that if we would have ate that, we could have gotten sick or died, and the importance of just canning food. Love you too, Chanel. Thank you, sister. Thank you. So without further ado, here's the legend herself, my beautiful wife.
No legend, you guys. No
Jackson.
Legend. Hi, no legend. No legend.
What's up?
No
What's
legend.
Up?
So, as Dominic was saying, so if you look over this way, so these are just two fruits that are canned. This is homemade applesauce. So, like we were saying, with everything that's been going on, you may have to save up food, for long periods of time. So, typically, home canning foods, if you can foods, it can last you sometimes even up for months and months. I've even heard of and read where foods can even be good up to a year. So, I mean, if something were to really go down, if you prepare and start canning stuff, this would be really good for your family, survival, and things like that. So, but what I learned...
what's that, by the way? That looks really good.
This is homemade applesauce.
Okay.
So this is homemade applesauce, and this is my homemade pie filling. Mixed berry pie filling. So
Chanel, tell them about that mixed berry pie filling, Chanel. Chanel, she can attest to it.
So this is, I made sure I had plenty of that. So, come post-apocalypse, we'll be able to have plenty of pie. So,
yeah, amen.
But anyhow, what I had learned, I gotten into canning. It was something that I've always wanted to do. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, with everything that's happening and with food crisis and all this kind of crazy going on, I'm like, you know what, how would we have food to survive? And so just an idea, what about canning? So I went out and bought a bunch of mason jars and I got, fresh fruits and some vegetables. And I just went on YouTube, looked up canning, water bath canning, popped up. And so what I started to do was I started water bathing everything. Let me show you what a water bath is. So this is typically what a water bath is. See? It's a water canner. It looks like a regular ordinary pot, but it's designed for water canning food. So comes really big, has a lid, kind of looks like that old grandma's pot. And then inside it comes with, see, it has these thing here.
Okay.
That lowers inside.
Now what is that? Now tell the folks, what is that for? Could you maybe demonstrate, if you had the right type of fruit or veggie, what exactly would you put in there?
So in something like this, what I just recently learned right now, you want to use foods that have a high acid content, such as berries, like your apples, tomatoes. They're safer to be able to use in a water bath.
Okay.
But foods that have low acidity, you can look it up for yourself. Like I learned green beans, for a good example. Green beans cannot be water bath. They have to be used in a pressure canner. Let me show you what a pressure canner looks like. This is a pressure canner. Notice how it has the pressure gauge on top.
Okay.
Along with the release valve. Okay, and this thing locks in place like a pressure cooker, but it's different. This is a canner, and it's especially deep. See? Take this off.
Okay.
Look down inside. See?
Ooh,
it's a very deep pot. It's huge. Really big. See?
Deep canner. Okay.
So this is the type of thing that you can use for things like green beans, carrots, corn, potatoes. You actually can even pressure can. Let's say you made some homemade chicken soup. You can do meats, fish. You can do that in a pressure cooker. You can actually cook in there. But the major difference is it has low acidity, so it has to be done in this pressure canner.
Okay.
Like I said, it has the gauge and everything that will show you. And if you have a guide like the way this does, if you should buy a canner, it gives you different instructions on how to prepare different fruits and vegetables, things like that. Also, it'll tell you about how many minutes to boil it, how many pounds of pressure per square inch you're going to need to cook it at. Okay, but if you're not really doing that, you may want to, hold on, you guys have some spaghetti cooking.
She doing a video on cooking spaghetti at the same time. Praise God.
So if you plan to do stuff like what I do, which is berries, everybody knows berries are high in acidity. So what you do is you can put these down in here like this. Okay.
Now, folks, this is if you're trying to like do what again? Explain that.
So this is if you're going to do your water bath. Okay. So let's say you have high acidity foods that can be water bath, and you can look them up. Fruits and vegetables that can be water bath. Okay. So let's say you're going to do your water bath. You put your items in here. Okay. Right? And always make sure that your jars are sanitized. So you want to boil your lids and the rims. Okay. Because these come separate. They come like this.
So for the people that may be a little bit on the slow bus, like me at times, what's the first thing they do before they even get them in the jars? Do they take the fruit and do they puree the fruit down? Like, what do they do? Like, what's the very start before they even get them in the jars and then, ultimately put them in the water-based counter?
So if you're trying to do something like a sauce, of course, then you probably would puree it. But like in this instance, I did an applesauce. So of course you're gonna puree it. So what I did was I cooked my apples down, got them the flavor that I want them and the consistency that I wanted, and then afterwards, I had my jars, which typically, if you take your glass jars, your mason jars, you're going to take off the lids and everything on it, and you're going to drop the lids as well as the seal covers. You're going to put those in some boiling water so that way it'll sanitize it. These, if you wash it and slide them in the oven to keep them warm, this is a good idea to do that when you keep them warm because, one, it keeps your jar sanitized, and then also, two, it'll prevent you from taking a hot item that you just prepared and putting it in a cold jar and having it explode.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
That's good. So after you do that, you make sure you don't have no residue on the lip of the jar. I'll show you what the lip of the jar is right here. Okay, so she's about to show you guys the lip of the jar. So, like for example, this would be considered the lip of the jar. This is the lip. Rim. Okay, so you want to make sure there's no food, make sure that's clean and dry. Right after you put it. And typically your items are going to come with tools that you need. Like you can use a funnel to put your food down in there. Right? And then, of course, because you're going to be dealing with very, very hot jars once you get them in there so that you don't burn yourself, it comes with these grippers that you use to reach down in there and you grab your jars
Okay, so sort of demonstrate it. Just say,
let's
for
say
example,
we're boiling,
you got
right?
the fruit inside here, for example.
Yes.
So just imagine we have some fruit in there. She poured it in there.
You're gonna pour it in. You use your funnel. Right?
Use the funnel.
After you're done,
Okay.
wipe off the lid, and then afterwards you're going to add your lid.
Add your lid. Okay.
It's called a lid. I'll take it out so you guys can see it.
So she's taking out the lid so you guys can see it. So
yeah.
just imagine, just for example's sake, there's some applesauce in here right now. We're just showing you from step one on, pretty much just showing you. Okay.
So for example, let me get a bigger jar because this one needs a wider mouth.
So that one needs a wider mouth to go with this lid. So that's what she's showing.
Typically you would put this on here. Wow, this is still bigger, but you put this on here like this, right?
Right.
After you get your lid on, then you reach for your, like this.
Okay.
Your actual screw on top.
Okay.
So, and these are also come equipped with a magnetic grabber, because remember, your lids and your screw on tops are going to be in boiling water. So that'll get hot when you boil it, so you have to be careful. So what you're going to do, you're going to reach into your thing with your tool piece. You reach in the water and, not that, but reach in there, right? And you get it out of the boiling water like this. See how it sticks? See?
You see how that's sticking to the magnet? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so then you're going to get that and you'll put it on here.
And why are you doing it like that again?
You're doing it so you won't burn yourself, and so that way you handle the lid as little as possible. You'll do the same thing with your lids. This also sticks to the screw-on parts.
Okay.
So the first thing you do is put your inner lid on. Then you reach back in your boiling water, get this.
Okay.
And you're going to apply that on your jar. So once you screw this on your jar, and we'll pretend like this has a lid inside, you screw it on nice and tight on your nice clean jar. And then you take your contents of what you've got here and you put it down in there. Then what you take is some, and what you want to have done is already have you some water. I would probably say fill it almost to the top, like about right here.
Okay.
Never mind my nails, you guys. They look terrible. Sorry. But you put the water about here. You want it to be about 2 inches above the top of about 2 inches above your jars. Okay. So when you submerge it down in there, you have 2 inches of headspace above it. And then what you do is you're going to put your lid back on. Okay. Right? And you leave that to boil. I think I left mine to boil maybe close to 20 minutes. Okay. Because I wanted to make sure it was really good on there.
That makes sense.
What you do is you'll go back in there and let's say, okay, it's been about 20 minutes or so. Okay. We're going to take our lid off.
Take the lid off.
And then you're going to reach down in there with your grabbers.
So with the tongue grabbers.
With your tongs, not with your bare hands.
Not unless you want a 3rd-degree burn.
Right. You'll reach down in there and you will grab the lid, the jar, out of the hot water. Okay, it's like that. Boiling hot, yes. Then you take that and prepare yourself a dish towel or a towel right there, and you sit your jars on there and let them cool on their own. So what's going to happen, you're going to hear a popping noise, like a ping, ping type of noise. When you hear that, that means this is sealed on here. This should not have a pop. This should not pop up and down. It should be solid.
So what happens if it is popping?
That means that you need to stick it back in the water and process it again until it pops. So you can stick it back in the hot water.
So you want it to be stuck in the water until it stops popping? Is what you're saying?
Yes, you want that to. You can stick it back in there for another 5 or 10 minutes or so. Take it back out again, and then let it cool down, and test it again to see if it's going to stay down. So
Lantori asks, and keep your questions coming, folks. Lantori asks, what does that do to the food or applesauce?
It's going to preserve it. So it preserves this for you. So this is going to preserve it. Like I said, as long as when you're doing water bath, as long as the acidity of the food, and like I said, you can type in fruits or vegetables that are appropriate for water bath, and it'll tell you which ones that can go in a water bath safely. Because the acidity is going to help to preserve it and protect you from botulism. Botulism is, from what I've learned, of the most highly toxic food poisoning that there is. Like, it will kill you. So you have to definitely do this right. And so as long as you follow those instructions, you should be good. You put the right foods in the water can.
Okay.
If you want to do something like meats, or you want to do like green beans and stuff, you want to use the pressure canner, because the pressure canner is going to get the water temperature above 100 degrees. It's going to get it high enough where it's going to kill botulism. So see that pressure gauge, this the pressure gauge on here?
Yes.
It goes from 5 all the way up to 20 pounds per square inch. So you're going to put that, and then when you take this off, you want to also make sure you protect yourself. So you're once you get to the time and the pressure that you need for the item that you're cooking, when you go to open it, because this is going to, and it's going to pop up to show you the pressure, steam will come out.
Right.
When you go to open it, because it also has a locking mechanism up here. When you go to open the item, you always open it away from your face.
Why?
Because you don't want to steam your face off. Yeah, like you literally steam your face.
You don't want to be like the guy on Batman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be looking like Two-Face.
Exactly.
So we don't
unless you want to be,
Two-Face.
unless you want to look like Two-Face.
Yeah,
we don't want you to look like Two-Face.
It'll be the world's worst facial ever. So yeah, always open away from your face, away from your body, and then when you follow the same steps, which is to reach in there with the tongs and grab out your jars, and then you're gonna sit them on your towel and let them come down.
Now, Latori asked a question. I guess he's Latori. Now, I'll be specific. You're saying for how long in the expiration? Are you specifically asking about the expiration of the preservatives themselves? Be a little bit more specific.
Well, if you're wanting to know now for dates, so if you want to know, just like I'm a nurse, so just like when you open a medication, you want to put on there the date that you opened it. I put on here, if you can see, I marked what it is, because you always want to put what is that, so you don't go back later on and like, what the heck is that? So you always want to label your items. I'm going to buy labels, but I kind of put that in there just so I know. And I know what it is because I don't have that many.
And as you can see, it says 3/21/20. That was the date that
this was canned.
That was canned.
So that
or jarred, whatever.
Yeah. So this lets you know that this is when this was canned.
Okay.
Same thing for this one. This one, I kind of rubbed this off, but mixed berry pie filling. This was canned on 3/24/20.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you label it. They actually have a space on here for you to be able to write your expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
See, let me show you a clean one so you guys can see, like the one that. So these are my smaller ones. See how it has the space for the date?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can actually write your own date on there. So
now, how long after the date? I think what he's asking. After the date, you put the expiration on there. Mm-hmm. How long can they be preserved for?
I mean, what you could do, you always could go on and look up how long a particular item can be held in preservation. I have read where things have lasted up to a year, 6 months, 12 months. It just depends. So that's a really good question. I would totally like go on and like look up for your items, like how long typically can this particular canned item last, and then you can kind of gauge how long you would prefer to keep it before you redo it again. And folks,
if you have any questions, just ask away, and she'll be able to answer any question you have. The reason we felt like this was important to do this because with COVID-19, and just the reality of the disaster, the food shortage. Families have to find economical ways in order to be able to save money. Not only save money, but to be able to preserve food. And we felt like this is definitely one of the ways that we found to do this, and we wanted to be able to be a blessing to everybody else out there.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. I just remember my grandmother. Shout out to Rhodessa. I think my cousin should be on there. my grandmother doing a lot of this when she was younger,
Yeah.
and when I was younger, not realizing that we might have to come around that mountain again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted her briefly, and like I said, ask any question you guys have, but to talk a little bit more about botulism. And the reason that's so important is because in the process of canning, you don't want to can something the wrong way and potentially hurt yourself or kill yourself. Yeah. And I bring it up because earlier we had a bunch of vegetables and stuff that we had canned, and she had to end up throwing that stuff down the garbage disposal. And could you briefly tell the crowd, tell them why you had to throw those away, and what were the signs that you encountered that let you know that you were dealing with botulism?
So, I mean, the first thing for me, and I don't, consider myself to be like, expert in this at all, because, I had to go back on and do some research and learn and watch videos and look up things for myself.
Okay.
The way I discovered that you needed to pressure can versus water bath is the fact that some items were, I looked at them, I'm like, well, it's starting to get a little bit, we were traveling and things like that. So I'm like, okay, these things, I might need to take a look and see, like, okay, how long can I hold these, especially if they're not put away like in a pantry where you would normally keep them.
At room temperature.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
and
okay.
So when I went on there and I looked, because I was curious, I wanted to know, and that's where I was able to discover the difference between low acidity versus high acidic foods.
Okay.
So anything that has high acids that you think about, berries, things with lemon, pickled stuff, things like even like tomatoes. Tomatoes is something with a high acid content. Those foods make it safer for you to do a water bath because the acidity won't allow for the botulism bacterium to grow in the jar, because it's a bacteria that doesn't need oxygen for it to reproduce and grow.
So
and
it's
store,
anaerobic then,
basically. And
okay.
So that's what the acidic in the food prevents that from happening. So it's safe to water can. Now, when I did my carrots, I had my carrots. When I discovered that, I already knew kind of that I was going to have to probably get rid of it. And so today, when I got to sorting through all of my preserves, I looked at my jars, and this is a telltale sign, is when the jar starts to puff up. You know how they kind of tell you, like, anything that's like canned, if the jar or the can, even when you buy canned goods, if you see the can start to puff or the lid is starting to pop up, that's like a bad sign. So
in other words, you need to get rid of it.
You need to get rid of it. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a sure sign that you're dealing probably with some bacterium in your food, and you don't want to have that. It's better to throw it away. Yes, I know you spent the money on it, and honestly, I was upset, but I'd rather be upset and not have botulism than to save money and like die.
Be dead.
Yeah, so we want to be botulism free. So
croaking.
So yeah, it's one of the it's the most deadly food toxins,
and
food poisoning.
And one of the things she was saying earlier, what she noticed was the thing was bubbling. Could you go into how the type of foods that you had? Because what she's saying is she put some foods that should have been in the high pressure cooker. Mm-hmm. She put those into the water based canner, and that were the wrong foods, and ultimately it caused botulism. So could you explain that to the folks, the type of foods that were in and the signs that you saw?
Yeah. So with the foods that I had carrots, corn, potatoes, and I had some green beans. So green beans, carrots, corn, and I had potatoes. And so I had a beautiful jar of these gorgeous, like, colorful carrots that I got from a farmer's market. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited to have canned those. They were just beautiful, purple and orange and yellow, and gorgeous carrots.
You're talking about the ones that we got?
Yes. So
no!
Yeah, they were really beautiful carrots. They look like heirloom carrots or something, but I put those in the water bath, and at the time I was ignorant, I didn't know. So once I knew this, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to get rid of it, because I went to press on the jar and the jar was popping up and down. So I said, this is no good.
No, why? Why was it popping?
Because of the spores, the bacteria that's releasing those spores into the food causes pressure to build up.
Air pressure.
Yeah, and so it's pushing the thing back out. So remember how I was saying earlier that when something is sealed properly and it's canned properly, there should be no give. Like, you should not be able to push this. It shouldn't pop up and down like a bubble. So
in other words, what you're saying, and that's thank you for pointing out. So what you're saying to the people is, if they're canning, one of the telltale signs that it's canned incorrectly is if you push this button right here
and it makes that
click, that means it's not right.
If you click it, then it's no good. You need to reprocess it. But at this point, my veggies, like my corn and my carrots and stuff, because they were not supposed to be water bath, some of them hadn't popped. The lid didn't give, but I already knew that eventually it was going to do that, because it was a low acidity food, and that botulism was going to create that air pressure. So on one of my cans of carrots, it did do that. It had a pop on it. It was really, the jar was really hard at the top. It was sticking up. So when I went to open it, it started to sizzle. You can hear the sizzling and the bubble, and it had a really bad smell to it.
Okay.
And then in addition to it, it started bubbling up. The bubbles started coming out. It's this cloudy bubbles. And I'm like, yeah, that definitely looks like botulism. You can even go online and you can look up items, canned foods, home canned items. What does home canned items look like that have a jar that looks like with botulism? And it'll show you what the food item will look like with botulism, and what it does to the item in there, and how the jar would look with a botulism. So I had to dispose of everything and sanitize and clean my jars, and I'll have to get more lids to go on, because I didn't want to keep those lids either. The rims on there, however, these you can still keep, because these you drop them in boiling water and
you disinfect it.
Yeah, you disinfect it, you sterilize
sanitize it. Okay.
Right, you can sterilize it. But my lids, because those jars, and I'll show you something else, because the lids on here come with a special sealant.
Okay.
So see this this film, this coating on here?
Mm-hmm.
See that? That's a special sealant that's designed to, once you boil it, it adheres to the lip on the jar, and it seals it, forms a very nice tight seal on there. So since that was used and I broke that seal off of there, I didn't want to reuse that.
Makes sense.
The lids, you know what I'm saying? So
we have to get some more lids.
You get more lids. The jars you keep, the outside lids you can keep, but everything else I'll have to get more of them. So yeah, that's what you want to do. Get new lids. And as you can see over here, I've got my tools, and I have different sized jars. These are not wide mouth jars. They have some that are called wide mouth jars. I'll have to find some of those that'll fit these lids.
Okay.
But I think the regular ones are the ones that will fit on here.
Okay.
See? And I think these are the quart jars. This is a quart sized jar. See?
Okay. So what's the difference in the jar? Just depends on what you want to can or jar or whatever.
Yeah, this is a quart.
Okay.
This is a whole quart. And like I said, they come in different sizes. I think this might be a half quart. You see? And they're really cute. See?
Lady, she says they're cute. I'm a guy. We don't use that word.
Yeah, pretty cute jars. And then there's the even smaller, jar. And like I said, if you want to make jams, like homemade jams, homemade preserves, these jars are they're perfect for it.
Yep. And Chanel, could you please chime in and tell her about that jelly, about that berry filling? Nah, I was joking. But nah, folks, we just wanted to do a brief video. Like I said, we're praying for everybody out there with what's going on with this COVID-19, and we just wanted to show, practical, sort of like practical things that everyone can do in order to save money and to
be prepared for
be prepared for emergency, be prepared for the apocalypse, whatever may happen. You know, the Bible talks to us about always being prepared. You know, so I hope that helps a little bit. Share it, like it, whatever you guys want to do. We love you guys. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, put them in the inbox or in the thread or whatever you call it thing. And my wife and I will be sure to answer those questions. One more thing before I forget, just so you guys can see. Can you grab this for me, baby? Because I got my phone in one hand. So, and this is the last thing. This is the pressure canner right here.
This is a pressure.
So you can see it.
This is your pressure gauge.
This is the pressure gauge, as you can see. So
this is a valve. This is a regulator, pressure regulator. This is a pressure regulator, and this is your gauge. This is very fragile. So just FYI, you know, when you go to wash your canner, never, ever, ever submerge your gauge in any liquid whatsoever. You always want to take this off, and it comes with washers and stuff. So you're gonna have to open it.
Okay.
See underneath it, and you'll have to undo the nut. You have to undo the nut and the washer that's underneath it, and take that off, and then, you know, clean your lid. So never submerge this, and you have to handle this. This is fragile, so you don't want to be too rough with it, because if you break it or, you know, damage it, then you may not get an accurate reading.
So in other words, you want to never let me handle that, is what you're trying to say.
Perhaps not, but just don't ever put this in water, you know, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes if it doesn't say this is not waterproof, you won't know. You put it in water, and then
so don't ever put that in water.
No water, and handle this very carefully. The gauge,
and this is only for low acidic foods.
Low acidic food.
So low acidic foods, you put in a high pressure canner.
Correct.
High acidic foods, you put in a water based canner, such as this right here.
Correct.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to say, babe?
And here, like for example, here and here, it shows you here. See, so you can do, and you can even do applesauce. Like here's an applesauce. You can pressure can it. Here it says boiling water canning, so you can do it that way also. You've got apricots.
Okay.
So I'll show you how to do apricots, all kind of fruits.
So it shows you a lot of different things, and then we have YouTube University that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that good stuff. So, you know, you guys get to can it. It's really fun, and it's very satisfying.
I tell you what we're gonna do, guys, and we gotta go. But the next time that we can, I'm going to do a live, and she's gonna walk you, because some people, if you're like me, you're more of a kinesthetic learner. You have to see and do at the same time. So I'm going to do a live when my wife actually does canning from step one on until she has something canned, so you can see it from its inception. So, you know, I'll definitely announce it when I do that. All right, you guys, love you. Anything else you gotta say, baby?
No, happy canning. I say go and get one, you guys, as soon as you can. Like I said, it's very, very satisfying, and you are storing up and like preparing food for, you know, a rainy day. Like, God forbid, should there be a disaster and you don't have, you know, gas or electricity, what are you going to do? So, you know, there's no microwaves in the wilderness or, you know, conveniences like that. So this is something that you think about, you know, back in the old days, they didn't have that. So they had to rely on things like salting, preserving, you know, preservation of food was a really big deal. So that's how they were able to survive before we got all the modern conveniences.
Sounds good. Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Any other questions, just ask below in the comment section. Take care. God bless.